Have you ever been in an interview and weren't confident on what to say, or about to take an interview and you weren't sure like what you should or shouldn't say, or how to answer certain questions? Well, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 things that you don't ever want to say during an interview. All right. Let me just introduce myself first, because this is the first episode of this podcast, and this is a new podcast called Get the Job. And it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to help you get a job based on what I know on how to get people a job. All right. So my name is John Syed, and I've been recruiting for the past 16 years. All right. And since I started my career, I started on the agency side. Then I moved over to the corporate side, and I've managed recruitment for some of the largest organizations in the world. I'm still in the game. I'm still recruiting. I'm still very active, helping people find jobs in a very practical sense. So the advice I'm giving you is not necessarily what I think you should do. The advice I'm giving you is based on what I've seen that works and doesn't work for other candidates. So since I have that visibility, sharing it with you might be helpful, especially in the environment and the economy that we're in. So many people without a jobs, so many people going interview after interview after interview and not landing a job. So hopefully the information I'm going to share with you is going to be helpful. All right. So a couple things. If you're not already following me on LinkedIn, like if you didn't come to this channel from my LinkedIn profile, go ahead and look in the comment section below. I do have my LinkedIn profile link in there. Then you can go ahead and follow me over there on LinkedIn. I do post my jobs regularly that I'm working on, so that'll give you some visibility on some of the stuff that I'm hiring for. And maybe it's something that that fits you and or fits someone and then you can share that job, right? That's one. Two is that I am going to share a link to my old podcast that I did I don't know, like 8 years ago. I no longer have access to that podcast because I don't know, it's just been so long. But it'll give you some idea on the content I've been sharing for like the past 9 years. I think I got a few 100,000 views on that podcast. But the problem is that information is so outdated. It no longer applies today. I started that back, during the financial crisis of 2008. So things are very different now. So a lot of the information I'm going to share has been like modernized and so on. All right. So the topic of this podcast is 5 things to never say during a job interview. I interview people every day. I sit in on interviews every day with hiring managers, and I listen to the things that people say from candidate to candidate. So like, let's say for one job, we interview like 5 different candidates. And there are some things that really do stand out during the job interview. And there are some things that just suck the energy out of the interview. Like you'll see a candidate great on paper, has all the credentials, has all the experience, and then they just start talking, and I'm just like, oh man, this like, I wish they would answer this question differently, because I really think they have the experience, but they're just not articulating it very well. And that's because people who are really good at what they do sometimes aren't very good at interviewing, right? And having done this so long, I've kind of figured out like, okay, this person probably can do this job, and I'll really go up to bat for them during an interview, with the hiring manager, and say, hey, look, I don't think that was their best interview, because when I had that one-on-one conversation with them, it was actually pretty good. So I think we should give this person another shot. Sometimes that works. Sometimes the manager's like, well, look, if they're not ready from the get-go, then I don't want someone like that on my team. All right, so what is it that what are things that you shouldn't say? All right, so let's just go ahead and jump into that. 5 things you should or shouldn't say in a job interview. All right, check this out. All right, I'm unemployed. That sounds pretty, look, a lot of people are unemployed, and the chances are if you're watching this video, you're unemployed. So when someone asks you, why are you looking for a job? What is your interest in exploring this opportunity? Whatever form that question comes from, yes, in theory, you could say I'm unemployed, but does that really sound inspiring? I know that you might be in a dire circumstance. You might be frustrated. You might be like just completely shocked that you're even in this position, especially if this is the first time you've been let go. But that doesn't mean that that's how you really want to portray that reality to someone you've never met, right? So it's really like this first impression. Okay. So if you're unemployed, all right, I get it. It happens to everybody. I've been unemployed before. It's not a good feeling. And you would wish someone would be sympathetic to your situation. Unfortunately, when you're interviewing for a job, you're not interviewing for the sympathy of the interviewer. You're interviewing for a job that you are trying to demonstrate that you're the best fit for, and you're better at that job than any other person, any of the thousands of other people interviewing for that job. All right. So that perspective is really important. You know what I mean? So when someone asks you, why are you looking for a job? You don't want to say, oh, because I'm unemployed, because that's just not inspiring. Now, I'm going to give you some alternatives on what you can share. All right. So here's some alternatives. You can say, all right, so like, look, if you're unemployed right now and you're doing nothing but trying to look for a job, I would highly recommend that you get involved in other ways. So one, for your mental sanity, like there is no joy in sitting at home all day long, applying for job after job after job, and then just being discouraged because you're not getting anywhere. That will drive you insane. All right. And by doing that, just by isolating yourself at home, you're not meeting anyone new. Now, granted, because of the environment that we're in and social distancing and all that, I get it. But there are opportunities still out there to volunteer, to share your own expertise. You know what I mean? Like this could be a good opportunity for you to start your own blog or your own channel. Before I got all this gear, and it's not even good gear, but before I got this gear, I was doing it on my cell phone. I have another, podcast that I do related to something not related to jobs. But I started with my cell phone, my iPhone. I just set it up. I got a little tripod, and I just started yapping into it. You know what I mean? So, what an employer is looking for is energy and inspiration, and that you're still like relevant, right? So when you just sit at home, every day that you're home and you're not contributing to your own craft or contributing to like building your skill, then you're losing an edge against someone who's like really sharp and really on top of it, right? So a couple of things you can do. One is, first of all, you got to start volunteering to say you can volunteer, right? So that's like an important step. So I would go, if you're like doing nothing else, I would go and find volunteer opportunities. Like recently, I went and started volunteering at the Houston Food Bank. I'm from Houston, and and I started volunteering with Houston Food Bank. I've been meeting a lot of people as a result of that. I've gotten a lot of energy as a result of that. And that's really like my social activity, because since everything's shut down, I can't really go anywhere. I can't really do anything. So I just decided to start volunteering. All right. So now, like in the event that I was looking for a job, let's say hypothetically, I just didn't have anything to do, and someone interviews me, I can say, well, look, my last job got downsized because of, the economy or what have you. At the moment, I'm volunteering, like pursuing some of my other passions. Simultaneously, I'm also exploring opportunities that are, aligned to like my expertise, and I'm just waiting for the right opportunity so I can continue making an impact. See, doesn't that sound so much better than just saying, well, I'm unemployed, therefore I'm looking for a job? All right. All right. So let's say you don't want to volunteer. Let's just say for whatever reason, that's just something you can't do. All right. So another thing you could do is consulting. So I have a company called Deep 48, and that started because I got let go of a job, and I really didn't want anything I didn't want like a gap on my resume. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just start a consulting company. It is not hard to start a consulting company. If you are good at what you do, you have any kind of sense in your craft, then you can very easily start a consulting company in that arena. Now, whether that consulting company is successful or not is really up to you. But here's the thing. If you're unemployed and you're not finding jobs, well, you got to do something. And if no one's giving you an opportunity, then the only other option is for you to create opportunities for yourself, right? Hence comes a consulting company. There are so many like website building tools out there now. There are so many like resources there where it's like, just drag and drop. And I mean, look, when you're unemployed, one of the things you have to do is become extremely resourceful, because resources are limited. And as each day passes, it's like you could just like literally run out of money, right? So you have to become extremely resourceful. It's a time to like get out of like, whatever past mindset you were in, and kind of get into a new mindset of like hustling and just like moving and like just trying to do something to, create momentum and energy in your life. So what I would recommend is, if you're like currently unemployed, don't have any prospects, you're going interview after interview, nothing is working for you, start a consulting company. Just go down to like any kind of domain, domain name company, and your first name dot last name .com, or xyzconsulting.com, or whatever the case is, right? Just get that. They have all these website builders. I know GoDaddy, GoDaddy is not sponsoring this, but you can go to GoDaddy. I've used GoDaddy for like the past, I don't know, like 15 years or something. They've been nothing but good to me. They got like these website builders, and it's like only like, I don't know, $15 or $20 a month. You know what I mean? So like you can just get yourself a little consulting company together, And a couple of things you can do with that. One is you can start looking for customers, like just messaging people on LinkedIn, looking for resources. I mean, there's so many different ways. That's something you can study. I'm not really going to go into that, but there are things you can do to acquire customers. Now, in that process, as you continue to interview, now when someone asks you, why are you looking for a job? Well, I was laid off from my previous job because of, let's say hypothetically, the economy. Let's just say that's the reason. And I recently started a consulting company, but that's really not my passion. I prefer to, I'm really not interested in like trying to build a company. But I would love to join a company like yours that's already like, very far ahead in terms of, whatever product, or widget that you're creating. And I just want to continue contributing. There's probably a more sharper way to say that, but I'm just trying to give you an example of how to fill the space when you're as an alternative to saying you're unemployed, because that's like one of the worst answers you could give, in my opinion. All right, let's say you don't want to volunteer and you don't want to do a consulting gig. I get it. You're not an entrepreneur. If you were, you would have been by now. I don't know. Whatever the case is, you don't feel like doing any kind of consulting. And for whatever reason, you don't have the ability, the desire or capacity, whatever the case is, to volunteer at the moment. All right, that's cool. Here's another alternative you can do: upgrading your skills. All right. Either, there's so many like certifications out there that you can get now. I mean, like there's so many classes and online classes that it's like dirt cheap to get a certification or, upgrade your skills. There's a lot of free stuff out there that you can do to like take tests and exams and, pick up new skills and so on. You can just do like research on YouTube. I mean, there's no shortage of information. Case in point, this video. So one thing that you can say is that, okay, why are you looking for this job? Well, my last job was downsized because of, financial issues at the company. At the moment, I'm working on improving upskilling myself in the areas of, communication or technology or whatever the case is, because that way, as I continue to look for jobs, I want to make sure I'm as sharp as I can be. So, and then I can apply these new skills in my new job, whatever the case is, something along those lines. So hopefully that helps you and gives you some alternatives to, the question of, why are you looking for work, and not defaulting to the most basic answer, which is I am unemployed. All right, enough on that. If you got any questions, put it in the comment section below on that topic. Also, you can hop over to my LinkedIn, which is, I put the link in the description of this video. You can hop over there, check it out, connect with me on there, shoot me an email, and then we can start chatting there. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. I am eager to learn. All right. So this is something where it's like it's kind of a catch-22, because if you are like really junior in your career, like you just got out of college or you're like 1 or 2 years in, okay, you can get a pass for being someone that's like eager to learn, right? But let's remember one thing. Your time to learn was in university or trade school or on your own time. Your time to apply what you learn is on the job. All right. Now, there are some jobs that are going to teach you new things. They're going to expose you to new things, which are going to force you to learn. But a job is not necessarily trying to teach you on how to do the job. Now, they might teach you other skills because they're trying to grow you and develop you into a more, productive employee. But they're not trying to teach you the core thing in which you're being hired for. Like, for example, let's say I'm applying for a recruitment job. I can't go in there and say, they're like, why are you looking for this job? Or why are you interested in this job? And my response is, well, because this is a great company. I can learn so much here, and I would love to join your organization. Like when you hear that answer, you're like, okay, well, I love the enthusiasm, but can you do the job that I'm going to hire you to do? I've been a hiring manager. I've hired people before. And the one thing I look for is, can this person, like, how quickly can this person become productive? Because there is a backlog of work that needs to get done. And in my view, like if I have to spend, the next 3 to 6 months training this person on how to do the job that I need done now, not only am I going to not get additional productivity, but my productivity might get hurt because now I'm having to spend time training someone to do the job. Now, if it's a developmental position, like I'm bringing someone in knowing that they're going to be completely green and I'm going to grow them into the style of employee that I want, okay, that's different. But generally, I'm going to be hiring someone that's like entry level for that role, right? So if you have like, anywhere from like 5 years on up of experience, your answer shouldn't be because I'm eager to learn or I'm looking to learn or whatever the case is. Your answer should be along these lines: because I am able to help now and I want to join a company where I can make a great impact. That's the right answer, because impact is what we're looking for. We want people that are eager to make things happen now and feel confident about the skills they have to make an impact now. Now, keep in mind, if you've only been doing, whatever you've been doing for like 3 to 5 years, you've got a lot to learn. By no stretch of the imagination are you a full-on expert in your field, but you're a very competent contributor if you've been doing it for 5 years at any level of complexity. So have confidence in what you've done, and try to communicate that based on everything that you have. Like, if you have, let's say the job is 100% knowledge of the job and you have 70%, or you're going to give 100% of that 70% to your new employer, right? Like, you're going to do the best you can and make the biggest impact you can, right? That's basically what the employer is looking for, and that's the spirit of the answer that that you need to be delivering. So hopefully that helps. While the learning piece sounds good, that's really not what they're trying to hear. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. Just try to demonstrate that you can make an impact now. All right. Next topic. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be cranking out a lot more videos on this topic, and I don't want you to miss any single one of them. Because if you're in the job market and just kind of been banging your head against the wall and getting nowhere, look, I'm just going to cut through all the nonsense. I'm going to cut through all the noise, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. I'm not going to give you any hypotheticals. I'm not going to give you any philosophical ideas. I'm going to tell you what you need to do based on what I've seen over the past 16 years. All right. Now, with that in mind, don't ever talk about how unhappy you are in your current job or in your last job. We don't want to hear that. All right. Even if that's the case, we just don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to hear, how crappy your boss was. I don't want to hear how toxic the company culture was. I don't want to hear anything about the company that was bad, right? Now, if you do say it, maybe it'll fly, maybe it won't. But the likelihood is that if you come with positive energy and you're coming with like a forward-looking attitude, that is the attitude that wins, and that's the attitude that's going to get you the job. Any attitude that looks backwards and then like slams, like the previous environment you're in or the current environment you're in, that makes a person wonder, like, is this person just like hard to keep happy? Are they just like this picky individual? They're going to come, I'm going to hire this person. Now they're going to be a headache, like all the time complaining about like me or the team or the environment or whatever. Like, no one really wants to hire a person like that, right? So if you start complaining in the first interview or throughout the interview process, then it's like you're kind of branding yourself as like, I don't know. I don't know this person, but what I do know is they clearly complain about things, right? So dial all that back, and here's some examples of what you can give. I'm seeking career growth. Fantastic. All right. A really good answer on that line is like, look, in my current role, in my previous role, I pretty much reached the limit of what I could do at that company. They're a wonderful company. They're just not as dynamic as this company, which is, clearly the leader in its space, or, very good at what y'all do, whatever the case is. So I feel like if I can join this company, I can continue to grow my career here by continuing to make, bigger and bigger impacts. That's one. Another one is like very reasonable, is shorter commute. And honestly, if you haven't even thought about that, you know what I mean? Like, let's say that's not even a reason, make that a reason, especially if the commute is shorter. Now, don't fool yourself or try to fool anybody else. If the new job isn't closer to you than the old job, well, then let's not, try to hoodwink anybody. But if the job is closer to your old job, well, that's a very legitimate excuse. Like, let's say you are trying to escape an extremely toxic situation, and all you're looking for is a very positive reason to say why you're looking, right? So a short commute can be one of them. Just say, hey, look, I'm spending like an hour in traffic every day. That's just, it's grueling, and I feel like I hate to leave the company I'm at. I love the organization, but you know what? I'm really looking for a shorter commute. That's a very reasonable answer. No one's basically gonna raise a red flag because of that, right? So think of that as opposed to, my boss is really tough. I mean, this is, I think they're singling me out. I almost feel harassed. Even if that's the case, don't share that. Just share something more benign, so that that question doesn't become the focus of the interview, right? Because you want to give answers that create more questions around your productivity, around your quality of character, around your ability to contribute, around the positive aspects of your personality. If you give answers that like start making a person like question, are you the right fit for this job? Do you have the right attitude? Are you going to complain all the see you're sending that person down the wrong rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole generally leads you into the decline bucket, right? So just be careful with that. Another thing is seeking to make a greater impact. That's like a big one, right? Like that's one that everyone wants to hear. Like you've basically reached your ceiling at where you're currently at. You feel like you can do so much more, and you just need an opportunity, an environment in which you can just really run full speed ahead. And that's what you're looking for. You've done the research on this company. They're telling you everything that you need to know. They've shown you that they have this like really dynamic environment, which if you were just given the opportunity, you can do so much to help them like be more competitive, grab more market share, raise the stock price, whatever the case is. You're just here to help, and you're just here to make a greater impact. So these are all alternatives to saying I'm unhappy at my current job, right? And I do recommend you take that seriously, because I can't tell you, like, remember how I was talking at the beginning of this video about how people are, like you have these really good like resumes, and more or less the resumes look similar, like for example, if I'm looking for, someone that has like 5 to 10 years of experience, with a bachelor's degree, for example, and that, Fortune 500 company, it's not unusual for me to find like 5 people with almost the exact same credentials. So then what sets you apart is the interview. And within the interview, not just how well not just the job itself, like your capability, but also your personality and your energy and all that stuff. So when you're giving answers, it's like some answers can just suck all the energy and the air out of that interview, and other ones are just like create this buoyancy and energy and this airiness, and it's like, wow, this person sounds like they really got their stuff together. Like I want to talk to this person more, and I feel confident putting you in front of the next level of interviewer. Because like the last thing, see, you got to understand, when you're interviewing, not only are you interviewing for the job, but you're interviewing for the next step in the interview process. That's very important to understand, because the person that you're like, for example, when if I'm recruiting for a hiring manager, I'm not the person making the hiring decision. I'm the person making the recommendation to the hiring managers that they should talk to you. And if I feel like you're just like super low energy and you're not communicating your ideas very well, you have all the wrong reasons to be looking for this job, I'm going to be extremely reluctant to put you in front of the hiring manager, because as you start saying all that stuff to them, right after the interview, they're gonna be like, "Hey, John, why am I talking to this person, man? They're like super negative. They're complaining on nothing. All they did was complain." And like, so you just got to understand, not only are you really interviewing for the job, but you're also trying to interview for the next, stage in the interview process. I will make that in my next video, or like one of my next videos. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because I will put that, I will make a video on that, on how to move through the stages of an interview. Sometimes it's like 2 stages, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. I'll talk about the different stages and how to move from one stage to another. So if you subscribe to my channel, you will have, you'll get the notification that that video has been put out. All right. So next topic on hand here. I'm just looking for a change. Why are you looking for a job? Yeah, I'm just looking for a change. That's so nonchalant. When you're bored, you just, kind of hit a wall and you just want a different environment. Are you fickle? Like, why are you looking for a change? Like that's such a non-inspirational answer that it's almost like, like when I hear that, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like when I was earlier in my career, I was a lot more cutthroat. Like when someone gave me an answer that I didn't want to hear, I'd just be like, okay, you know what? Next. Now, like I've been doing this for so long. I've seen so many different scenarios. I know so many people that are just like great people. They're just terrible at interviewing. So for better or worse, I've developed compassion. But I can tell you, there's recruiters out there that are nothing like me. There are hiring managers out there that are nothing like me. I've seen them. There's a lot of them. They could care less. You give them the wrong answer, you're done. Simple as that. You know what I mean? So, like I'm just looking for a change. It's such a blasé answer. Like, I mean, how's that inspirational? How do you think that's reflecting on you in the reason why you're looking for this job. Like, it's really not reflecting well because it doesn't say anything. Oh, you're looking for a change. Okay, good for you. So what? So here's some alternatives. All right, I'm looking for a challenge. That's a good one. It's like, why are you looking for the, why are you looking at this job? Because in my current role or my past role, always always say it was a great company, great people. I loved being there. I love being here, so on. But as I was researching this opportunity and I was researching your company and I'm seeing the things y'all are doing, those challenges inspire me. And I feel like I can make such a big impact, and I'm really looking for those type of challenges. I'm looking for something really dynamic, and the stuff that y'all are working on, I want to be a part of that. That's why I'm looking. Doesn't that sound like more inspirational? Doesn't that make the person that's listening to you like, if they're not full of crap, man, this is the person I really want to roll with. This is the person I want to put in front of the hiring manager. All right, so that's one. Another one is looking for more complexity. That's kind of like challenge, but it's like basically saying that, if your role has just become like kind of routine and mundane, or, just kind of like you're doing the same thing over and over again, or the company is small. So basically you only have like one or two projects y'all are working on, and it's like the same project you've been on for like the last 5 years. So what you're looking for is a company that's dynamic, got a lot going on, got a bunch of customers, got a bunch of projects. So you're just looking for a more complex organization. So you always just want to position it as, the company I'm at or the company I was at, it was a wonderful company. They're a smaller company. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. I feel like I've reached the limit of the impact that I can make. So I'm looking for a more complex organization where there's, more things that I can, there's more ways that I can contribute. So that's like one way, to kind of offset that question of, why are you looking? Another one is I'm looking for a team environment. This is a really good one because in most cases you're not going to be, even though you're going to be an individual contributor, you're going to be an individual contributor on a team, and each person on that team is going to have a role to play, to achieve the bigger goal and the bigger target. So when you talk about you want to be in a team environment, so like remember, don't fool yourself and don't try to fool anybody because we have a way of like seeing through the BS. Like you gotta understand, I've interviewed probably thousands of people. Like I can pick up BS from like a mile away, and I'll start drilling down question. I'll start drilling and asking questions, and I'll uncover it. Like I think I'm probably like 99% success rate at like uncovering BS. Like I've been doing this for too long, and there's a lot of hiring managers that have hired hundreds of people. There's recruiters that are just like me who have talked to thousands of people. So always be authentic during your interviews because that authenticity will have an energy that can't be, replicated by like trying to BS someone, right? So just be authentic, be yourself, have faith in the fact that you're good enough for this role and let that shine through. So in the event that you were in a role where like the team was small or the team was spread out all over the world, or, you were just like very small company, so you were the team, and for whatever reason that wasn't exciting to you, you are a people person and you want to be around other people of junior and senior stature, so that way you can mentor the junior people and learn from the more senior people. Now keep in mind, that doesn't mean you want to be in a team environment so you can learn. Okay, you know what, that's not, you don't want to go that route. Now you can say, I'd love to be on a team, and I want, like, I love the company I'm with, I like the team that I'm on, but we're like spread out all over the world, so there's not really that sense of cohesion. I understand based on the research I've done, your teams are real tight knit. I see the stuff that y'all post on, LinkedIn or on your website. It just looks really exciting. I just want to be on that type of a team environment, especially if there's like junior people on your team. So I'd love to, have the opportunity to mentor and coach people as well, and just kind of do a transfer of knowledge. These are the type of answers you want to give because these are the type of answers that just sound that make you sound interesting. They make you sound like you're plugged in and you're engaged, and you're not just like a tool looking to just like, fill a hole at some company. You know what I mean? Like even though the company might be large, the individual and their team, they're like these very like small units within like these very large organizations, and they have their own culture, they have their own like niche within the company. And so you just want to be a contributor to that team, right? So that's one way you can kind of offset, the question of why you're looking, and not saying I'm just looking for a change, because that is like not inspirational at all. All right. All right. So next one. All right. So this is kind of like, I want to say this is the last one, but I cannot stand generic responses. you got to understand, I talk to so many people. I've talked to so many people on a day-to-day basis. And the moment I hear a generic response, I feel almost, I don't want to say insulted, but I just feel like, come on, you could do better than this. Like, are you even trying? Like, I understand, like, okay, here's the thing. Remember how I told you I've become a lot more compassionate? Okay, I get it. Maybe you have never been out of a job, 10 years and all of a sudden the economy got flipped upside down and now you're out of a job. Okay, I get it. So maybe you did like some research on, what are the top 10 things you can say, during an interview, and you just kind of plug and play some of those lines. But you've got to try harder than that. See, and now because you watched this video, now you know, right? And the whole purpose of this podcast, Get the Job, is to give you that edge and sharpen your skill set in interviewing, so that way you don't sound like, all the other candidates. Because if you show up giving a generic response, or let's say someone shows up giving a generic response, and after having listened to this podcast, you're able to give a really sharp and great response, wouldn't that be better for you? All right. So like, what are some things that you can say? All right. Why are you looking for a job? Or, why are you looking to join this company? Or what interests you about this role? You can say, look, I'm looking for a company that shares my values. That's a really good one. So instead of saying, I'm looking for a Fortune 500 organization that, is a leader in its space and gives me an opportunity to contribute to my greatest capacity. Like, we're in the year 2020, and I heard that same line like in 2005, and it's still being used. So it wore out its welcome a long time ago, right? So now, like, in the spirit of like inclusivity, in the spirit of like, people driven organizations, in the spirit of like, the employee being like the most important asset of an organization. So you really want to come across as that type of individual. And here are some of the things that you can say as opposed to a generic response. One is like, I'm looking for a company that shares my values, right? So like, let's say you care about the environment. So you can say, I'm looking for a company that shares my values, and I see that, your company or this company, contributes to XYZ, nonprofit organization, or this company is, trying to achieve like zero emissions or whatever the case is. And, that's something I value like deeply, and I want to be with an organization that shares that value with me. Another one might be like, a company is like really like into community service, right? And that's one of your values. So you can say, look, I'm looking for a company that shares my values. I really, I feel like, the best impact you can make on the world is around your local community. And I see this company does a lot for the local community. That's actually how I heard about it. And so as a result, I'd love to be a part of this organization and not only apply my craft, but also help with your community engagement efforts. That's like a wonderful line. If someone told me that, I'd be like, okay, you know what? You're moving straight to the front of the line, right? Another one is I'm looking, this company, I've been doing research. I've been reading news articles about what this company is doing. And y'all are working on a lot of projects that I'm extremely passionate about. And remember what I said about like starting your consulting company or starting a blog or starting a podcast? Then you can also add, and I am like, blogging on this topic. I am podcasting on this topic. So, like, this is something I really care about. And on my, spare time, I like to share, information with people in this space, for my, my level of expertise. When you say stuff like that, people start looking like, this person is really interesting. Not only do I think they can do the job, but I'd love to like just be working around someone like that. Keep in mind, as an employee, like, you bring a personality and a dynamic to the organization. Like, no one wants to like hire this like extremely like dull and boring and just like, not fun to be around person. Like, at the end of the day, they will hire. I've never like declined anyone because they're dull and boring. Um, but it helps to get a job to have a little bit of like passion about something. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, it helps. All right. So another thing is, I want to make products that improve the world. All right. Let's say you're in a space where, there's a company that's really changing the world. And you can argue that every company is kind of like changing the world in their own space. Like, if you think of like a Ziploc bag, they're keeping food fresh and, whatever, man. So it's like, you can kind of like use that to whatever field that you're in. Don't stretch it like way out of bounds. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be like companies out there that really aren't changing the world. They're just kind of making products that are like utilitarian. But I guess if you're really passionate about it and you know more about that space than I do, and you know how they're changing the world, fantastic. So you can, respond with, instead of giving a generic response, you can say that, you know, I think the world could be a better place with individual contribution from each person, and the kind of products and services that you're providing, I feel are making a positive impact in the world, and I just want to be a part of that. I want to do my little piece to make the world a better place. That's a wonderful answer, you know? Shows compassion, shows like confidence, shows, you know, a desire to like help. Those are all values that, you know, people will appreciate, you know? So that's just head over, you know, this just head and shoulders above giving you like a very generic response that like has been circulating on the internet for like since the internet began. I mean, that's just, you know, a generic response is not going to get you anywhere. Now, keep in mind, when a hiring manager gets candidates, they have like 3 or 4 or 5 candidates that have more or less the exact same skills or experience as you. And in some cases, more skill and more experience than you, right? So the only way you can differentiate yourself is how you respond in your interview, which is why I wanted to make this, you know, this particular episode, because I felt like there are so many people that don't know what to say during interviews. I got people that I know that are looking for jobs, and I just see the things they're doing and I'm like, "Oh man, you're really not going to get anywhere at this point." But it, you know, I don't know. This is why I felt like I needed to make this. So if you're in a place where you're like getting interviews, but you're not really landing the job, then I highly, highly recommend you take this advice and really sharpen up your responses and never say the things that I said, you know, that I said you shouldn't say, and focus on the things that I talked about that you can say because they are going to give you an edge. Now, this is just like one tiny aspect of the overall interview picture. So I do recommend you subscribe to my channel if you already haven't. Also share this video with anyone you think that will be, you know, find it useful because this, in my view, this is extremely useful information. I've been hiring people for 16 years. This stuff works. This is not like an experimentation. This is like, this stuff works. All right. Just take my word for it. And if you don't believe me, go down to my LinkedIn page. I have it in my comment in the description below. It has my work history in there. You can see what I've done. I've been at this for too long to be giving you bad advice. All right. My name is John Syed. Don't forget to hit the like button on this channel, share this video, and I'll see you all next time with some more content that's going to help you get the job. All right. Thank you and see you next time.